We've lined up the top stars from Hollywood and from all over the world to entertain you on a giant screen with a few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. They're driving theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
All right. Oh, hey, hey. Oh, what's going on, everybody? You're tuned in to the Drive-In Speakerbox.
Speakerbox.
That's Speakerbox, dude.
Show yourselves, Speakerbox.
Show yourselves, Tornado. Speaking of tornadoes, it is looking stormy out here in northwest Arkansas. You guys.
I was headed right into the storm.
In the eye. You were a rider of the storm?
Yeah, like in Blues Brothers 2000.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's the Doors.
I know. I'm all the riders of the storms.
Yeah, all of the storm riding riders of the storms.
What's up, everybody that's tuning in on the old watch party on my personal Facebook? I know that things are really weird now with the COVID-19. A lot of people are tuning into streaming media like they've never done before. And, you know.
That's cool, though.
It is cool. We're so happy that you're here. I know. Shout outs to Maureen and Sam and Blake, people that don't normally check out our show. McLean already tuning in on the YouTube channel and commenting here. If you're brand new to the show and you've never checked it out before, the way that this works, this is a movie show. We've been doing this, I think I've been doing this for over 15 years now, and welcome to the party, pal. We have been doing this a long time. We talk about movies. Normally we talk about, the world of Hollywood is really messed up right now, so, it's really strange time to be alive, so to speak, and we normally tell you what's coming out in theaters. We tell you box office roundups. We tell you the box office roundup this week is going to be really interesting, actually, so because it's not zero. And
there's been like one or two movies that have decided to.
And the sources of this is really, really interesting. But like I said, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, we're going to be talking about movies this week, and it is 420, dude. For those of you that aren't watching the video. And we're going to be talking about stoner comedies tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things I want to cover tonight. So if you're tuning into my personal watch party on the old Facebooks, check us out down here and in the video links. You can find our the Facebook page at the Drive-In Speakerbox or YouTube.com/the Drive-In Speakerbox, and you can get involved in this chat window that's right over here. We can see your comments. You can talk to us. We can talk to you. It can be a conversation. Johnny Dalton says on YouTube, my wife and I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox this weekend for the first time. Congratulations. That's a really good movie.
There's lots of those Roald Dahl novels turned movie that were pretty good, right?
Yeah.
James and the Giant Peach.
James and the Giant Peach. Don't get me started on Henry
Willy
Selick.
Wonka. Not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but Willy Wonka.
Oh, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Roald Dahl, love him or hate him, I don't know. Whatever you want to do with him, that's fine. But there are some good movies that some people don't like Roald Dahl. Some people think that he's a little weird. But Anyway, check us out. You can get involved in the chat right there. And The Witches. The Witches, good one. McLean,
that's a good one.
Shouting it out on YouTube. The Witches is a good one. But we're going to be talking about all kinds of movies here tonight. So and now more than ever, movies are really important. I've talked about this on previous episodes right as this pandemic started to happen. And I was talking to, people, I've had conversations, people like, essential workers. And I'm like, you want to talk about essential workers? We're talking people, filmmakers, storytellers, content creators, artists, craftspeople. Like these people are essential because these are the people that are keeping you from going, The Shining all up on your family. Like, this is, you don't want some red rum scenario where.
Well, we've had some frozen days here recently, and I know that where Vince lives in Chicago, they've been getting crazy amounts of snow and stuff still.
Dude.
And so yeah, you could go outside and be like Jack Nicholson, just frozen,
Just be like,
frozen in the ice. Yeah.
getting the shinning. But we want to guide you through that. So a lot of the conversation tonight is going to be we're just going to give you recommendations, because normally we talk about what's popping, what's new, what's hip and what's cool. But you know what? Guess what? Everything's getting pushed back. The new everything Disney crap is getting pushed back. The new Batman is getting pushed back. Everything's getting pushed back because of COVID-19. And no matter how much Kenneth Copeland tries to that virus away, it's still here, and we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to.
That evangelical dude on
His
on the
eyes.
internet?
If like COVID-19, we blow. Like, I have never been more terrified by a dude's eyeballs than it's like Poltergeist 2 was like old man with a creepy smile, and it's like that has stayed with me since I was a child. But now it's Kenneth Copeland, and I'm just like, dude, get out of here with your scary face. How do people give this guy money and I feel like it's like, if we don't give Kenneth Copeland money, he's going to come get you. Like, that's what families that watch him on TV, they tell their children. They're like, he's going to come, and you don't want him in your house. And then because he's terrifying. That dude is terrifying.
Maybe all the super religious people are like, yo, if I'm this scared of him, just imagine, like, all the evil must be scared of him too.
Dude, they must be, because I am. But anyway, we're going to be talking about stuff. But so 420. I mean, neither of us are reefer heads.
No, I've never one time, actually.
What?
Yeah, no, just not my scene, man. Plus, growing up, being 6.5 foot tall, having hair all the way down your back, and hanging out places like that. If the cops were to show up, guess who the first person they're coming after is, man?
Dude.
The dude that looks like that's his scene.
Well, I mean, it is the 420 episode. Why isn't your hair down? Why aren't you playing the part, dude?
I mean, I got my Cheech and Chong shirt on from when I saw them live with War here locally.
I'm just saying, like,
had a really good time.
If ever there was a reason to have your hair down, it would be today.
Nah.
You just don't do it. Why even have it? Why do you even have hair down to your booty crack if you're never gonna, like, let them locks fly, bro?
Wow, Mom.
I'm just, yeah. Yeah. Me and your mom, we understand. Y'all let them locks fly. Your dad lets his locks fly. You know? I've seen it.
I've seen it.
I've seen it.
Oh, seen it. That's a quote coming up from one of our reefer movies we can talk about.
It's true. So we're going to be talking about 420 movies tonight. But blazing them up, all of you at home that are COVID-19ing, and you got your blue 40 Skidoo strains and your Jedi Kushes and your Dankensteins or whatever. I've told people this a lot. I've got a lot of friends that are super into the marijuanas. And
does Jedi Kush make you feel like you have the Force?
I'm sure it does. It makes you feel like you don't have cataracts.
These aren't the robots you're looking for, dude.
These aren't the pizza rolls you're looking for, bro. Yeah. But I've told this a bunch of times. It's like nobody, like especially the conservative right, is never going to take marijuana seriously if you still have to go to your doctor, get your legalized card, and your doctor in a white coat is like, yeah, I think I'm going to prescribe you a little bit of Dankenstein 17, and I think a little bit of lightsaber blazing purple Kush is going to it's just really going to fix you up. No one's going to take that shit seriously ever.
Does lightsaber blazing purple quiche, does it have motherfucker written on the bag like Sam Jackson's lightsaber hilt?
Dude, some of these strains names are so stupid sounding that I almost am just like, yo, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I believe in it, and I think it should be legal too, but God damn it if it doesn't sound so stupid that I just don't even want to get on board with this crap.
Yeah, but dude, integrity.
Yes.
Integrity weed.
Integrity. What was you remember what was it? Sam Elliott. There was a movie. What was that movie that we went and saw with Sam Elliott, and he was just this reefer head? Was it called oh God, it was one of the last movies. It was an indie film, and I really, really loved it. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Sam Elliott is a reefer addict.
Sam Elliott. He sat around. He was a retired actor.
and he smoked a lot of weed, and then he got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
He was like the anti Ron Swanson, where he was like a reefer addict, sandal wearing hippie man in Parks and Rec.
No, I mean, of course it wasn't Parks and Rec. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up because rarely do I have to look up things in the Hero. That's what it was. The Hero came out in 2017. I thought it was Hero, but I was like, that's a Jet Li movie, and we're not gonna go there. But turns out it was. I was right the first round, that first time around. Anyway.
Hero's a sick movie.
So, yeah, both Heroes are sick movies. So you could check out the Sam Elliott Hero movie or the Jet Li Hero movie, and you're going to be satisfied either way. But since it's 420, I suggest the Sam Elliott Hero movie. Going into the comments here, Johnny Dalton saying they need to be bringing back the gray and blue Batman to the big screen. Everything else is just trying to recapture the glory days of Nolan and Burton. That is true. Going back to the comment we made earlier about Batman getting pushed back. And, yeah, so Batman...
Just Adam West Batman all the time, always. Because they did make several feature films with the voices of Adam West and Burt Ward. They were animated, but they were done as original 60s Batman TV series with the original voices. And there's actually a very good made-for-TV movie because if you want to get into 420 reefer movies, 60s Batman, the motion picture, and then the made-for-TV movie, The Misadventures of Adam and Bert, Search for the Batmobile. Those are
it's Dude, Where's My Car, but with Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but it's like a made-for-TV biopic about the production and filming and behind the scenes of the 60s Batman because it's Adam and Bert and they're recalling their misadventures while they're on a misadventure, and it turns out that Fred Gorshin and Catwoman, what's her name? Julie Newmar.
Yeah, Julie Newmar.
Yeah, they had stolen the Batmobile, and Booger from...
Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Yeah, Booger from Revenge of the Nerds was
Booger.
like... He was
I
Adam
miss
West's
Booger.
butler.
Is he still alive?
He just he's in that Domino's commercial.
Oh, that's right. Man, I miss Booger. Risky Business, Revenge of the Nerds. Like, dude, Booger rules. What's his even name? He doesn't have a name. It's just Booger. I love it. Jody Verser over on Facebook says, can we bring back Adam West like we brought back Tupac?
Doing the Batusi on stage?
Or in a hologram.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like a hologram doing the Batusi. And then Thug 1 and Thug 2 on their T-shirts come out of nowhere. And
actually, if they just had a Thug Life shirt, that would be even better.
But then
what a crossover.
You have holographic bam, zap, pals like pop up as he punches them.
Boof, bip, wow.
Yeah,
I don't think wow was one of them, but
there was all sorts
bow,
of them.
bow, bow. Dude, every morning I would wake up as a kid and watch TV Land because I watched TV Land, the Nick at Night and the daytime channel, and I would watch Gilligan's Island and I would watch Batman, and dude, it was way before my time, but dude, it was awesome.
That's what I grew up with.
It was
Gilligan
so fun.
And Batman and Taxi and Newhart. And
I saw a really good Gilligan's Island meme the other day about the professor and the millionaire, and it was like, how many times did the millionaire help him get off the island? 0.
Yeah.
And then it was like, how many times did the professor help? Literally every episode. And it's like, why are we listening to millionaires and not our scientists right now in COVID-19? And I'm like, bam!
Yeah.
Gilligan's Island knowledge on you.
Unfortunately, Thurston Howell III and Muffy never helped with anything ever.
They used up all the coconuts, and the professor's like, hey, I needed these coconuts to make this ham radio. And they're like, oh, Mai Tais. And, yeah, stupid millionaires. Get out of here with your millionaire business. What's everybody drinking at home? If you're blazing up, you don't have to admit it on the because we know it's not legal in every state, but I'm drinking the new Diet Dr. Pepper and cream soda with a little bit of Smirnoff vanilla. Because we had it here. So what about you over there, Grip?
Well, I'm here with Movie's favorite beer, celebrating the friendships of Riggs and Murtaugh, and the reason that the Bandit was loaded down and trucking and all that. I got a nice, refreshing Coors.
McLean's over there.
Which
on,
also Sam Elliott did commercials
He
for.
does like Coors. It's liquid gold. McLean over there drinking a tequila Sunsets. Speaking of Lethal Weapon, I checked out Lethal Weapon 1. I mean, I've memorized this freaking movie.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But all the Lethal Weapons are on Netflix right now. If you're needing an excuse to watch one of the most quintessential buddy cop series of all time, it's on Netflix.
I recently marathoned all of the Lethal Weapons, and I believe I talked about it on one of our previous episodes. That might have been when we were only streaming on Periscope or so. It was a year or two back. But if you marathon, just watch all of the Lethal Weapons right there. It's a good time.
It is a good time. Hey, little Joe Pesci.
Leo gets.
Hey, it's what Leo wants, Leo gets. So Garrett, shout outs to Garrett turning in here, the big Gunderson himself, Mr. Pickleman, asking if that was Bud Heavy. No, dude, it's Coors Heavy. Coors.
If I get the option, sorry, Dad. He's a big Bud man. But
Do you remember Bud Man?
Yeah, my dad has several Bud Man collectibles. I have a Bud Man magnet on my fridge at home.
All right, shout outs to
yeah.
Bud Man.
Yeah, Bud Man's super cool.
Speaking of Bud, it's 420 tonight, and
Nice.
we're going to be talking about Reefer Comedies. Christopher Shareher, all big Chris over there, sipping on the Mountain Dew over on the
Is
Facebook.
he talking about that sody pop, or is he talking about, White Lightning?
White Lightning.
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dewskis. Well, all right. Well, because we got a lot of show to cover, and there's not a whole lot of news. There is a little bit of news that I wanted to mention because this is a show I've been looking forward to for a long time. But if you've never read the graphic novel Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, it's a fantastic read. You're stuck in at home. What else are you doing? Check out Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. This has been in and out of movie production for a long time. Finally, Netflix pulled the rights to do it. Neil Gaiman actually wrote it. The whole first season is written, much like American Gods, which has had a rocky start, even though it has one of my favorite TV directors behind the helm. But it's just still having a little bit of difficulty finding an audience. But sometimes Neil Gaiman's work is like that. But Sandman, really cool. Pushback. The production got put on hold, but the first season is written. They still want to do it. That's pretty exciting.
It'd be really cool if they somehow visually converted Amano Yoshitaka's artwork for that.
Dude, that would be mega baller.
Because that's one of the coolest things about Sandman is all of
The art.
Amano's artwork, which if you like things like Final Fantasy, now that FF7 Remake is out on PS4 early, out on the other consoles a little later, all of the Final Fantasy concept art, box art, all that stuff is done by Amano. And
Amano if
you're into his
a
art,
monolithic, dude.
yeah, check out Vampire Hunter D. That's a thing to watch while you're at
if you
home.
want tornadoes coming out of your palm.
Yeah, especially if you're token reefer, that movie you'll be like, what?
And the like pseudo sequel Vampire Hunter D. What is it? Bloodlust. That one's really good too.
Well, yeah, but don't watch the original first.
First, you
because
got to watch.
everyone that
You can't
I
go
know,
backwards.
They watch Bloodlust first, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like the first one because the art's not as good." Like, yeah, it was done by hand 30, 40 years before, dude. Like 30 years ahead of time. You gotta watch the first one.
You got to adjust for inflation.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do that, and you got to understand. Like that's something that we try to teach you guys on the Drive-In Speakerbox under normal circumstances when we're able to talk about new movies and reference new movies and all this kind of stuff that you've seen. Is to go back. When you're watching this older content, you're like, well, I like these new movies first because CGI is better and Chris Pratt is hot and like fuck all that. And what you have to do is you have to look at these pieces of work as like, oh my God, this was made 40, 50, 60 years ago. They didn't have the tools we had today, but these things are still influencing the way we do things today. And if you can pull your head out of the fact that you have a cell phone in your pocket and you've got a graphics card in your laptop and you've got an Xbox and a 4K TV and you can forget that you were born in 1990 whatever and look back at a time that was before your time and appreciate what the the crazy shit that they made that is unbelievable to this day. I mean, shit, the Lumiere brothers were making stuff that still boggles my mind. I'm like, how'd they do that? How'd they do that? I'm like, they didn't have some nerds going, oh, all I gotta do is just punch this in, and oh my gosh, Brave, look at our hair. It's so
like
CGI.
Trip to the Moon or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Well, I just watched like a mini doc about The Thing, and then the 2011 or 2014, whenever it was, version of The Thing, which they said was a prequel just so that the world didn't hate them for remaking The Thing, you know?
Yeah.
And they had originally filmed it with the intent to use all practical effects, but then the studio was like, nope, let's cover it all up in CGI because we can, and then it just flopped so hard, and the CGI is one of the worst parts of the whole thing, to the point where all of the VFX artists had to release videos on YouTube of the original cuts with the practical effects, and they're like, no, look, we did our part, we tried. And the studio took over in CG.
Well, it's the same thing that happened when Universal Studios tried to resurrect the dark universe with the Wolfman. They had Benicio del Toro. They had
that wasn't part of that whole deal.
No. This is something different. But it was they had got the original. Oh my gosh! And I'm normally really good about. It's not Stan Winston, but it was the other guy with the ponytail. Stan Winston died. There's three greats in special effects. It was Stan Winston, there's Tom Savini, and then the other one, and I follow him on Instagram, and I'm so pissed off that I can't think of his name right now. Somebody will put it in the comments. But anyway, they got him to do the creature effects, because these three guys, these three captains of industry, they all had their own special effects. Stan Winston was like slimy roboties, and then there was...
Yeah, but he also did like the Predator.
Slimy. That's slimy. Aliens and robots. And then there was Tom Savini, who did gore and zombies, and he was the best at it. And then Rick Baker. There it is. Rick Baker. Rick Baker did werewolves, monsters, and things that go bump in the night. And so the Wolfman, they got Rick Baker on the phone. And if you don't follow Rick Baker on Instagram, follow him. He is one of the last of the titans of special effects. Him and Tom Savini. God rest Stan Winston's soul. He's gone. But Rick Baker, they got him on. He was doing all the practical effects. Universal's Wolfman was set to be awesome. Benicio del Toro couldn't pick a better cast. And then they got almost done with it, and they're like, we need more CGI because that's what audiences like now. They like computers. They want to see the Wolfman jump 17 stories and have his pecker real big and nipples and all the hair. And it's like, yeah, you could do that with... No,
These
man.
are the same people that did Thor Ragnarok?
Basically. And they're like, no. And then Rick Baker's like, hey, man, I just really made some amazing effects here. Maybe you forgot the time that I still hold the fucking championship for werewolf effects from American Werewolf in London, not Paris because that one isn't as good, but London, still one of the best werewolves. Dude, Thriller werewolf, come on, Rick Baker knows werewolves. And then they were like, well, we're gonna put you with the CGI team, and then they went and fucked it all up, and the movie failed because of it. And Tom did The Howling. I think Rick Baker also...
The Howling is the one where they transform and their human skin like rips
just straight
back,
off.
and it's just like the skinless wolf snout pushing out of their face, and they're like, "Argh."
Man, you know what?
Creepy.
I want to get Tom Savini on the show sometime. I want him to call in because I've got two of my really good friends taught at his school. And,
he has a school too, because like I would be stoked to go to like the Stan Winston school.
Dude. One of the things we're going to try and do now that everybody's COVID at home, we want to start getting some new guests here on the show. I've actually lined up a couple of interviews. I just got to figure out the technology behind it. But we're going to get some of these people to talk to because I've been working in the biz. I got some friends and they would love to be on the show, but we're going to figure that out. But anyway, Reefer Comedies, let's talk about them. It's that time. Let's talk about them. You want to talk about them? Yeah, sure. I think everybody knows the big obvies.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, that's what I'll start out with here. Cheech and Chong, Actually, I just watched Up in Smoke on Netflix the other day because it was there. I'd been
And
talking.
you had this big ripping joint in your hand, and you were just trying to get totally ripped and
No
blazed.
way, man. I wasn't smoking Labrador. But no, it was on there, and I'd just been talking about it the other day because I grew up watching all of these as just comedies, man. And the Cheech and Chong movies, there's a handful of good ones and a handful of ones that might only appeal to you depending on what you're into. But Up in Smoke is the big one. And then next movie is very underappreciated. Not a lot of people go past Up in Smoke for some reason. But next movie brings in Cheech's cousin Red. I think it's the funniest one. And then you have Nice Dreams, where Sergeant Stadinko, codename Hard Hat, Lard Ass, he ends up being a reefer addict and turns into like a lizard man from it. And it has like Rip Taylor in it, and all sorts of fun stuff. And then you have movies like Still Smoking, which you get to see their stand-up comedy, which I went to live. It was a great time. They sang Earache My Eye. They did Mexican Americans, Born in East L.A. They did...
Born in East L.A. is good.
Yeah, they did the Dave skit. Like, hey, man, let me in. It's Dave. No, Dave's not here. Like they did the whole routine. It was awesome. And War played, and I like funk music. So that was a good time for me. But... they also have movies which aren't necessarily reefer related, like the Corsican Brothers, which if you haven't ever watched it, it's Cheech and Chong brand comedy set in like medieval Spain or whatever.
It's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, Corsican Brothers is really good. It's about a set of twins, and they don't know they're twins. They were separated at birth, but they can feel the pain that the other one experiences.
Like the twins in G.I. Joe. You remember those? The two that they could feel each other, and that's how you defeated them. You punch the other one in the nuts, and the one that's at you goes, "Oh!"
Yeah.
And,
well, that's how the Corsican Brothers works.
Exactly what it is.
And Cheech and Chong comedy ensues. But there's also ones like Things Are Tough All Over. Not exactly the best one, but then you have things like Far Out Man, which was just a Chong standalone movie with a brief appearance by Cheech in it. And Far Out Man is definitely like a big reefer movie for sure.
Is it Far Out Man?
The dude's name is Far Out Man.
Far Out Man? Is there a comma? Is it Far Out Man or is it Far Out Man?
Well, his name is Far Out Man.
But does it have a comma?
No, man.
Okay, so it's like, Far Out Man.
Yeah, he's like Superman, but he's Far Out Man.
Okay. See, that's important. Does it have a hyphen or a comma or nothing? Hey, guys, punctuation. I know Twitter exists, but punctuation is still important.
You know what? Watching these movies and stuff, too, you get to see a lot of other big comedians make appearances. And like Paul Rubens plays a big character in next movie.
Yeah.
Bobcat Goldthwait's in one. I think it's also next movie.
I miss Bobcat.
Yeah. Rip Taylor was in one, and it's, stuff like that. Stacy Keach returns as Sergeant Stadinko. So, yeah, you get lots of fun stuff out of those.
So yeah, I mean, there's a whole universe, a reefematic universe that you can check out with the Cheech and Chongs. Like
kind of see how the whole genre got its start.
It got born out of there, because they were really one of the pioneers of the reefer comedy. Now, if you want to get nerdy about it, you can go back as far as the 30s, and one of the ones that, because I love old kind of propagandic horror films and like all this kind of stuff. I mean, if you recognize any of this shit in the back, all these tchotchkes. But one of the ones I always love, because the ad campaigns are better than this movie itself, because this was kind of a movie that was made to sort of dissuade people from smoking pot, but it ended up doing the opposite because
it's hilarious.
And people that were like smoking the herb were like, this is funny. And even in the 30s they were like, this is funny. But it's reefer madness.
Dude, reefer madness is great because you have scenes
reefer madness
where like the woman smokes reefer and she like goes crazy and has like stab people and run people over because there are like
jazz
there's
parties.
the one guy's like smoking and he's like, check this out, pedestrians, and like runs people over.
And Death Race 2000s, those people like blah 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 blah.
Yeah. But then they made it into a 70s musical.
They did. Yeah. And the 70s musicals pretty awesome. But Reefer Madness, like it's public enemy number one. Like if the females smoke the weed, then the whole world is turned upside down. And just watching this is like a time capsule into days that we're about to return to if we keep listening to our current leadership. Like, you know, not to go down that rabbit hole, but you know, it's bonkers to watch it. And I think that if you've never seen it, it's definitely worth watching to give yourself a little bit of historical content or context on how far we've come, you know, in a relatively short amount of time on something that you know, that's one thing that I think a lot of people go, oh my God, it's 2020, I can't believe blank. And it's like, you know, this country is not that old in the broad scheme of things, but we do make progress. We do, and being able to look at a movie like this, that there are people that, well, I mean, they're really freaking old, but there are a few humans still alive when this thing was made. And in a lifetime of a human, we have made a lot of these changes. And it's really interesting to get a historical perspective on some of that stuff. So, yeah, Reefer Madness, check that one out if you never have. Hey, shout-outs to Eddie Love over there checking it out on the Watch Party on Facebook. Shout-outs again to people that are tuning in for the first time. If you're watching it on a Watch Party, then we cannot see your comments here on the side. I'm having to have several windows open to do this. But if you want to get in the main comment thread here with everybody else, you can go to our Facebook or our YouTube, which we would love for you to like and subscribe to. It's facebook.com/The Drive-In Speakerbox or youtube.com/The Drive-In Speakerbox. You can also just listen to the audio bullshit of this when you're driving to work or sitting on your couch crying about how you lost your job and someone's going to get a virus. You can find it on Spotify or Tuned In or Stitcher or whatever, wherever you get your podcasts. We're out there. Okay, more Reefer comedies.
Where do we go after you bring out the pinnacle that is Reefer Madness?
We go to Pauly Shore, bro.
Oh,
the
nice.
Whistle.
Stony, man.
The Stony.
His name is Stony in Encino, man. Wheeze the juice. Wheeze the juice.
The juice. I mean, the wheeze. Actually, if you're bored and you need some Pauly Shore, I don't know if I've talked about this on the show yet, but like a lot of celebrities right now, he has a new YouTube channel, Pauly Shore, because he's stuck in Maui right now with his ex-girlfriend. So he's like, I'm going to do a YouTube channel called Pauly Shore Stuck in Maui with my ex-girlfriend. And they do like skits and they get telephone interviews from famous comedians and celebrities to Skype in, and they just goof off.
Why have you not told me about this outside of the show yet? Like, why have you not let me know?
I don't, because I only see you once a week, man.
Yeah, but we're friends. You could talk to me outside of the deal, man.
I know, but it's just like I just saw it and I got excited and I watched them because it's the Whistle, and you know, Biodome. You got Son-in-Law. You got
In the Army now.
You got Goof Troop. He was high in Goof Troop, and he was a kid in that movie.
No, Goof Troop's the TV show, man. You're thinking of a Goofy movie.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking about. Goofy
Goof
movie.
Troop was the follow-up TV show.
The Leaning Tower of Chisa.
Yeah, man.
And you cannot tell me he's not on Reefer.
Max be Powerline in the gym, flying over the kids so that he can get down with Maxine. Dude, Goofy movie is the one.
And Pauly Shore and Pauly Shore, if you remember, Spring Break was defined by Pauly Shore in the late 80s, early 90s. MTV Spring Break, and you had Spring Break with the Wheeze, you had Chillin' with the Wheeze, and I mean, dude, like, when I was a kid and I was watching this stuff, it's like, when I grow up and have six-pack abs, which I've never had in my entire life, or when I grow up and I get tall and girls want to have sex with me, which has never really happened in my life.
Yeah, get on some gnarly nugs.
Dude, I was like, I'm going to go to Spring Break in Panama City and like hang out with the Wheeze. And
dude, of course, that would be sick.
Dude, and that never happened. It never happened. And yes, we're talking about Pauly Shore, asks Joel on Facebook. This is Pauly Shore. You want to talk about stoner comedies? You got to go back to one of the sources of amazing stoner comedies in the late 80s, early 90s, and that is Pauly Shore movies.
I don't think in any of his movies it ever shows him token reefer.
No, and that's the magic of it. Because
his name is just Stony, or like in Biodome, he like farts in the Baldwin's face or burps in his face, and they guess what he ate, and he always nails it because they're just stoner lame ass dudes.
And that's the funny thing, because it wasn't until fairly recently in film history where you could be like, yo, I'm gonna toke this up, and How High and Jim Brewer, who built a whole like freaking career about being like, I'm so high, dude. Like it took a while, and like guys like Pauly Shore had to be like, okay, I'm gonna do some comedy, I'm gonna make some jokes, and you guys are gonna have to understand that there's a hidden element to all these jokes that you guys know that we can't put on film, but you at home know what's happening here.
Like Beavis and Butthead type
Just
thing.
like, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And Pauly Shore did it. Like Pauly Shore, a lot of people don't give him enough credit, but there's a reason that all the comedians in the Hollywood and in the stand-up world love Pauly Shore. It's because that dude is funny on levels that entertainers love.
Well, isn't it like his parents owned the
Laugh Factory?
Yeah, yeah. Kind of like the whole.
So he grew up in that as a child, and he was a kid amongst greats. So, dude, I love me some Pauly Shore.
Yeah,
but
Pauly Shore does good stand up. I like all those movies, man.
yeah, so any of those, Biodome, In the Army Now, like
Biodome was the only one I didn't own on VHS. I had In the Army Now. I had Son-in-Law. I watched it probably like 100 times. Encino Man never gets old.
Encino Man never gets old. Because I mean, that was the pinnacle. Well, maybe The Mummy was the pinnacle, but that was one of the pinnacle roles for when what's his face was not only a good actor, Brendan Fraser, but was also in really good shape. And he was a hard. I don't know if you've seen him now.
Because he was Link, man.
Dude, he was Link, and now he's got like more chins than George Lucas. But I mean, it's. Yeah.
I think there's like a real reason for that, like health reasons and stuff.
Kind of like what is it, Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
Did you see, he was in the Jay and Silent Bob's reboot?
Yeah. Speaking of reefer comedies, there you go.
Speaking of reefer comedies,
Kevin Smith, man, the Jay and Silent Bob. He was in the reboot as Blunt Man.
Yeah. Which is funny because he was Batman. See, we don't need to see Brendan Fraser.
Well, but there was a whole story that Kevin Smith told about that, where because Val Kilmer was Batman, he got him to be Blunt Man, and since he can't talk, it was perfect because he's playing Silent Bob,
who
doesn't talk anyhow.
Because for those of you that don't know, Val Kilmer had throat cancer, really, really, really bad, and it happened right around the time of I think that movie, The Iceman, not the Iceman like Top Gun Iceman, which he played the role of Iceman, but there was a movie with where it was a murderer in the snow or whatever, and he got cast in that, but that's when he got really, really, really messed up with his throat, and now he is like a cancer survivor. He's out there, he's doing the best he can, but he looks like shit because that's what happens when you get cancer in your neck and they have to cut that shit out. But he was a decent Batman, says Johnny. Shut your mouth. Are we gonna fight? Are we gonna fight?
Yeah, we might, because in the live action Batman movies from the Tim Burton
hang on. Context. Johnny Dalton on YouTube says he was a decent Batman. I defend this statement. I said yes.
Batman as 2 words, so I don't know if this is where he put on like a bat costume,
Deflator Mouse,
or if we're talking about like Batman as a single word. In which case, in the live action movies, there are the actors. Some of them are good Batman, some of them are good Bruce Waynes. Some of them both, Michael Keaton, but not everyone gets to be both a good Batman and a Bruce Wayne, and I think Val Kilmer was a better Bruce Wayne than a Batman.
I won't disagree that he was a better Bruce Wayne than a Batman, just like George Clooney. George Clooney was a way better Bruce Wayne, a terrible Batman.
No, I think he was a better Batman than Bruce Wayne because both elements of that movie were terrible, but at least when he was in the costume, he got to be like a campy Adam West cartoon.
That was the only
Batman.
time I've ever seen someone cock their head and you see the rubber bow out so I can see the rest of Batman's neck, because that...
Yeah,
George Clooney
there were nipples on the bat suit, but that wasn't him in the costume. I'm saying his portrayal as a Batman was better than being a Bruce Wayne.
Hey, man, I'm just glad that the Gunderson here, he caught my tick reference from Deflator Mouse. So, yeah, Deflator Mouse. That's like the Mouse-mobile comes equipped with 8-track and cassette.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, ooh, look out.
But yeah, Kevin Smith, stoner comedies, going back to that part, you have so many.
Dude, I mean...
You got Clerks.
Jay and Silent Bob are the connective tissue between the Kevin Smith universe, and
Mall
they
Rats.
are all about that reef.
You got Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, Chasing Amy. You can skip Clerks 2 because
Dogma.
it's garbage. Oh yeah, Dogma's a thing that exists.
Yeah.
That has one cool scene in it. No ticket.
But Jay and Silent Bob, if you want to talk about reefer heroes, like marijuana, like film heroes, you cannot ignore Jay and Silent Bob. You may not like them, but they have had a somewhat permanence through the annals of Hollywood history as being reefer smoking like heroes. And dude, they embody the reefer comedy.
Yeah.
So if you've not seen, like, you know, I mean, start with Clerks. Clerks is where you need to start, and then that journey will keep you going through the Kevin Smithiverse. There's
Some of it's going to be very dated.
There's a good portion of it that'll be very dated. Clerks is the first one.
No way, because Clerks, you have like the German dude. He's like, "Would you like to suck my cock bells?" Oh God.
The Berserker guy.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
What's not funny about that? Yeah.
He's like, yo, man, you gotta listen to my friend. He's a metal singer in Germany. Yeah, I'll spit out some of those bars. And he goes, Berserker. Like, oh, jeez.
That's good.
Oh, man.
Good stuff.
Jay and Silent Bob. Again, if you're wanting to talk about stoner comedies, you cannot ignore Jay and Silent Bob. They have a lot of different movies that you can check out. Tons and tons and tons of them.
And you know what? You mentioned it a second ago. You said How High. Now that's a fun buddy stoner comedy right there with Method and Red.
Method Man, Red Man, of course.
After they smoked their buddy Ivory, and
they made an appearance in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
They do,
tying the Weediverse together in the movies. Dude, How High is? I mean, again, Method Man, Red Man. You know, those guys were, again, poster children of the like reefer movement of the late 90s, early 2000s. And then they managed to cross over into, you know, a musical realm, music and movies. Much like, well, I mean, I don't want to get there yet, but How High, and then there was, I mean, that was, that had, what was the Jim Brewer? How many weed movies was Jim Brewer in?
Well, there's the big one with Chappelle and him and Harlan Williams and Stephen, what's his face? That's the guy on the couch. We were just talking about it the other day with
Half Baked.
Yeah, Half Baked.
Yeah,
there
everybody
we go.
knows Half
Because we were
Baked.
talking about Bob Saget. Because he did that movie. He like directed that movie.
He did. And Half Baked was one of those movies that, I don't know if you watched the thing on Netflix recently where Chappelle got
Chong is in that movie.
He is in
He's
that
the
movie.
squirrel master.
And, you know, it was one of those movies that did so terribly. I think it opened up the same weekend as Titanic.
Stephen Wright. Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, Stephen Wright. Thank you. It opened up the same week as Titanic. No one thought this movie was going to make money, but it became a cult classic for a lot of weird reasons because the 90s, like you got to remember movies like Friday and Next Friday and the Friday After Next, which, you know, movies like this, that was the movie I was going to talk about where it crossed between the music and the movies was Friday. I mean, how many people had the CD of Friday before they even watched the movie Friday? Like that movie bridged a gap between music and film that like movies that haven't done in years. I mean, movies like The Crow did it, and movies like, what was it, 13th Highway or Highway Lost Highway. That was another one that the soundtrack was more popular than the movie. Don't get me started on those weird things. But Half Baked opened a door to reefer comedies at a time where people were trying to shut the door on them. And, you know, without Half Baked, we would have never had Pineapple Express. We would have never had...
I love Pineapple Express.
We would have never had Harold and Kumar.
Oh, damn. I didn't even think about
Harold and Kumar,
I
man.
saw every one of those in the theater, including 3D, and I watched it in 3D.
Oh, dude, the 3D,
Christmas?
the Christmas
Yeah.
one is actually pretty good.
Because it has more NPH, and you can never go wrong.
You cannot.
That Harold and Kumar revived Neil Patrick Harris's career.
It did. thanks to the reefer comedy. And so a lot of people poo-poo on the reefer comedy as not being a viable form of entertainment and being lowbrow. But you have to look at how many careers and how many things were built off of these reefer comedies.
It kickstarted the careers of Kal Penn and what's his name, Cho. Henry Cho. Is that right? Is that what his name
It's
is?
Cho.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like the Harry Potter character.
And then you had like guys like NPH having their careers fully revamped so to where he could go to How I Met Your Mother and then just become Mr. Tony Award Broadway Neil Patrick Harris that everybody just thinks is the coolest dude. And then you have people like Beverly D'Angelo makes appearances.
Most of David Gordon Green's career was built off the backs of what we're talking about right now. I mean, you can't have Seth Rogen, you can't have you can't have any of these dudes, the Judd Apatow gang. You can't have any of those guys without having these movies that we're talking about. I mean, you've got James Franco, who got famous off of reefer comedies, now he's winning Academy Awards,
Well, and talking about Pineapple Express, since we mentioned it earlier, Craig Robinson, I synced it. He got a big jump start from Kevin Smith movie, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, starring Seth Rogen, and he was in Pineapple Express. And all of these have given him stepping stones to being a bigger actor and doing things like The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine and being in Hot Tub Time Machine and just all of the movies and TV shows that you like. And Craig Robinson is fantastic, and every time he's in something, I get very excited because he's funny. I really like Craig Robinson, and he's been able to feature that he's a talented musician in those things. So those movies have helped kickstart several parts of his career and really get him off the ground as much as he has, as well as people like Seth Rogen and more of the main characters like that.
Yep. Well, and Blake said Chris Tucker became famous because he played a stoner. That was right. He was, we mentioned Friday. You got knocks the back out, and Chris Tucker built an empire like off of that one character, and propelled his career. And same with Ice Cube. Like that was a big foray into Hollywood was through Friday, which movie was about weed, man. Like that's what it was about. You want to talk about careers built on weed? Go back to PCU. PCU is a movie that really helped launch a huge career of a guy maybe you heard of, Jon Favreau, who played the biggest pothead in that whole movie. I can't remember his character's name, but he was the dude with the dreadlocks, and he got stoned and accidentally ran across Parliament Funkadelic, and then he led them to the concert, and then Parliament Funkadelic, they called the party Everybody Get Laid, and
you want to talk about
PCU? Come on,
reefer
man.
Movies that star Parliament Funkadelic, i.e. George Clinton, that don't show anyone smoking reefer, but they do. I'm talking about, whoa, Ed, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger.
Can I take your order?
Yeah, Ed has to be a reefer addict, man, especially when Mondo Burger comes to town, tells him to watch his butt, and he just spins in circles like an idiot. And then they get locked in prison, and he meets, or in the psych ward, and he meets George Clinton.
Dude, there
has to be some reefer smoking.
There is. There is. And same with Dude, Where's My Car? Ashton Kutcher's.
Dude, Where's My Car? There is explicit reefer use in that
Ashton
movie.
Kutcher's career was built on that movie.
Stoner bashing time. No, man, it was built on that 70s show.
Well, which was also a reefer comedy. If you want to, when they're sitting in the basement, the round table, you think they're not smoking weed in there?
No, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. Yeah. It's literally the whole thing.
Dude, Where's My Car is great, man. Yeah.
And it was aliens the whole time.
But
spoiler alert.
Speaking of aliens, it has Brent Spiner in it as the Frenchman, who has Andy Dick from the Pauly Shore movies locked in the cage. Email me, freakinacage.com. And they have to fight the llamas, i.e. ostriches, stupid llamas. And Stephen Wright is the dude in their closet who comes out and pisses in their potted plant, Shibby. And he was the guy on the couch in friggin' Half Baked. What you know about reefer movies?
There is a weed-averse here. And
you can remember these things about reefer movies when you don't smoke the reefer featured in the movies.
That is actually 100% true. And here's something that for those of you that are just tuning in, or those of you that download this podcast, those of you that are just catching the show for the first time, we have not talked about this show.
No.
We didn't even decide that we were going to talk about reefer movies until about like 30 minutes ago. And because like, oh yeah, it's 420. Let's talk about weed movies. Like, we don't script this. And so we want you to know that the reason that people love this show, the reason we want you to share this show is we know what we're talking about. And
dude, I can keep going because we talked about Lethal Weapon and Sean crap, I just had his name in my head. The dude that plays friggin' Stifler from American Pie.
Oh yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah,
I just had it.
He was in Cop Out. He was
he's in Dude, Where's My Car? And he's in that movie with Jet Li, and Jet Li is in fucking Lethal Weapon.
The movie with Jet Li was Romeo Must Die.
Monk.
Bulletproof Monk. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm thinking Cop Out, where he was the parkour guy.
No, Cop Out is a Kevin Smith movie. That's trash. No one likes that movie, man.
I like that movie.
Kevin Smith doesn't like that movie.
Shut up. He makes fun of Harold Faltermeyer did the score to that movie, and that movie just came out at a wrong time. The movie was good. Bruce Willis
ruined it.
Did what he could.
No, he didn't. That's the whole behind the scenes of that movie, and why it's so bad is because Bruce Willis was impossible to work with.
I'm just saying, that movie could have been amazing.
Speaking of reefer and Bruce Willis, someone was smoking way too much of it when they wrote the script for what's the one with the girl with Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep?
I don't know. Garrett just wanted to let us know it was Sean William Scott.
There we go.
And so Eddie, thank you, Garrett, thank you, Eddie. Sean William Scott. And whatever happened to Sean William Scott? Like, he was just like America's heartthrob for a minute, and then he disappeared off the face of the planet. Kind of like, what was his name? He was in Lucky Number 11. I was just talking about Josh Hartnett. He kind of disappeared. He was like one of those late 90s heartthrobs. But I did read an interview that Josh Hartnett just didn't like the celebrity lifestyle. And he's like, nah, dude, I'm good.
Well, Sean William Scott was in The Rundown with Ernie Reyes Jr. And Ernie Reyes Jr. is in several reefer-related movies, including Surf Ninjas.
Quan
Su dudes! And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that the turtles smoke reefer.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. The Ninja Turtles.
That's one of the secrets of the ooze. That's why it's green, y'all. That's why it's green.
Got 30 seconds. Like, that's why they love pizza, dudes. That's why they say dude.
That's why Splinter's so chill, bro.
Yeah, they're all reefer heads, and we know it. We all know it.
That's why Casey is paranoid.
That's true. They're all reefer addicts, man.
Yeah, man.
The Foot Clan, Shredder, like, they're not into it, and that's why they oppose the Turtles. The secret of the green, man, that green ooze.
Dude, and while we're talking about aliens and morphed out creatures and superpowers, Paul.
Dude, I forgot about that movie.
Talking about...
you want to talk about reefer comedy, science fiction style.
With Seth Rogen and the Simon Pegg. And
taking the alien all the way to Area 51, but getting him high the whole time. Like, Paul is a very underrated movie. Like, it's one of those. I saw that in the theater. I remember going and seeing that, and I was like, I don't know. This didn't really seem my thing. I'm gonna go see it because I review movies. It's what I do. But it was actually pretty good, and it's not on a lot of top like pot movie recommended lists because we've gone over some of the titans. But Paul's one to. It's one of them sleepers. It's one of them sleepers.
Oh man, you want to talk about things like that? A great reefer comedy, The Stoned Age.
The Stoned Age. Again, I mean, that's Seth Rogen again, isn't it?
No, man, that's like, it's a movie.
What's the one with Seth Rogen where they're a caveman and there's weed involved? That's another one. I'll look that one. But The Stoned Age, who was in that one?
Well, The Stoned Age is about dudes in the 80s who were just trying to find chicks and beer, and they're like heavy metal guys. But one of them, He had a trip when he went
yes.
and watched Blue Oyster Cult, but they're all about chicks, and then Ox 45. And Municipal Waste, a heavy metal band, has a whole album and a song called Beer Pressure, and it opens up with quotes from the movie of Stoned Age. But the Stoned Age is like a buddy adventure. It's about like all these kids just trying to get beer and find chicks and smoke some weed.
Joe and
just hang out.
Hubs. Those were the characters in that.
Oh, is it?
Joe
Yeah.
and Hubs.
Yeah.
I remember this movie now.
That's a good movie.
That is a pretty good movie.
Very underappreciated, not often watched enough. And you know what else, man? Toxic Avenger. Or just any kind of trauma movie, man.
Yeah, trauma
They put it in there
movies.
quite a bit.
They do. They really do. I mean, that's just a toxic. I mean, that's trauma. That's what you do with trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, you know, I know that we're trying to pull them all out of our noggins here. But you know, another one of those movie crossover to reefer comedies that there's Moondog. I don't know if you've seen that one. That came out actually recently. I think it's on streaming right now with Matthew McConaughey. We saw
both
that.
of us watched it.
We reviewed it here
Yeah.
on the show. You can go back far enough. Moondog, another really good, and that's not a reefer comedy. Essentially, it's kind of an artsy art film. You know, it's a drama film, but it does have Snoop Dogg, who was it Soul Plane. Was that the name of that one?
There was a movie, Soul Plane.
Where it was just like basically the whole movie was Snoop Dogg flying around smoking weed on a plane. Like that was the whole movie. I'm not saying it was a very good movie. I'm saying we're referencing it because it's a weed comedy. But Moondog.
It was blaxploitation airplane made in the 90s.
That's absolutely correct. But Moondog, guys, Moondog was actually really, really good. And if you've not seen Moondog, I highly recommend checking that one out.
Yeah. You know what? There's a whole...
Oh, okay.
Well, Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. I mean, Dazed and Confused. We'd be silly if we didn't mention Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused, again, Dazed and Confused is one of these movies.
Career launcher for people like Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck.
But Richard Linklater is one of my favorite directors. He is one of these guys that is totally overlooked a lot, and you have to really be in a certain mood to watch a Richard Linklater film, except for Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused is one of these movies that anybody can watch and appreciate. I mean, you've got Be Cooler If You Did. Like, I mean, it's Dazed and Confused.
That's the origin of All Right.
Yeah, everybody knows. No, a lot of people don't know the movie, but everybody knows like Matthew McConaughey's lines from there. But dude, you're talking Boyhood, you're talking Before Midnight and Before Sunrise, the Before trilogy, whatever you want to call it. You're talking Slacker, you're talking Scanner Darkly, you're talking all of these movies that Richard Linklater did, and Dazed and Confused is what really propelled him, and it was a weed comedy that popped him up into the forefront and really helped make him the movie maker that we know today. Let's see. Going into the comments here, what do we got here? We got Jody says, beer pressure perfectly describes my work from home experience so far. Yes, there is a lot of beer pressure going on right now.
I think they also have a song that opens up with a quote from old Jack Burton. Municipal Waste is a great thrash metal party thrash band and the guys in that band love movies and all the same stuff that we talk about. So if you like heavy party thrash and having a good time and drinking beer, and if you like smoking reefer, they're probably your thing. They're a lot of fun.
If you like party thrash.
And all of their album covers are like a Toxic Avenger like looking thing. They're great. They're perfect. It's a lot of fun.
Just like weed.
I don't know about that. Couldn't tell you. You know what, though? There's a whole genre of movies in this that we're missing right now.
Fill us in.
Horror. Because you can still have a stoner comedy and it be a horror, like in one of my favorite movies.
Scary Movie?
No.
Oh.
But all of the Scary Movie series, there's always
some dope smoking.
But that's because it's Wayans Brothers, and you got to have that kind of thing.
Before we get into the horror, Wayans Brothers, Scary Movie, got me thinking, what was it? Hang on. Don't be a menace in South Central while you're
Sipping
juice in the hood. Don't be a hood and
don't be a menace.
Don't be a menace.
It's the short title.
In South Central while you're in the hood drinking the juice. That's what it is. Another really good weed comedy. It's Wayans Brothers, Super Soakers.
Don't Be a Menace is fun.
Don't Be a Menace.
It's just a good movie.
So, okay, horror movie.
Well, if you want to get into that, there's all sorts of like Jamie Kennedy comedies, like but we can
We'll
not worry
circle
about
back. That's the 90s. We'll come back to that one.
Horror movies. One of my favorite horror movies.
You don't watch a lot of horror movies.
But starring someone who's in a lot of reefer comedies, Seth Green.
Okay.
Idle
Hands. I knew where you were going with this because Idle Hands.
Jessica Alba, Seth Green, one of the Bash Bros from Mighty Ducks, and some dude who ended up not being in a bunch of movies, but he was in movies in the 90s, and Idle Hands is awesome.
Idle Hands is a pretty good movie.
It's a pretty damn good movie. It's comedy, it's horror, there's zombies,
it's like one of those high school party movies too.
Yeah,
like
because there's the prom and the hand gets loose because he cuts his hand off, tries to kill it in the microwave. It becomes
very
mutated.
very Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, it's controlled by the devil, and so then it goes around groping boobies and like stabbing people and stuff. They were in Kiss makeup in the car.
They were groping boobies. Mm-hmm. Like if you had an evil hand and cut it off, it's the first thing it would do, grope some boobies.
It did, and then it murdered them.
It murdered the boobies.
Yeah. Dude,
you don't murder the boobies.
I meant them as in the kids making out in the car or whatever. But Idle Hands is a fun movie, man. And it has all of it. It's all there. Horror, gore, comedy, reefer addicts, because that's part of the whole thing is that the kid is really lazy. He's just a reefer addict, doesn't do anything with his life, and he has idle hands, and the devil will take over. Idle hands. It's very good.
Idle Hands.
But then
the weeds plaything.
Yeah, you have all the scary movies, but
all the scary movies.
You also have the Leprechaun series. Which brings comedy into it,
and then
too.
Going back to Snoop Dogg, Leprechaun in the Hood, and then Tales from the Hood.
Well,
Tales from the Hood. If we're going down this like thought,
but Leprechaun
bubble.
In Leprechaun, the Leprechaun smokes weed in more than just in the Hood.
The Leprechaun toked it up.
Because what was the one after In the Hood? The first thing that happens when he like comes back is he finds like a bong or whatever. It's like the very first thing he does. And people don't take the Leprechaun serious because he's just this little person getting messed up on
Davis
weed.
Sitting there getting messed up on weed.
But then he just shoves a bong through someone's face and starts the murder party. And they're always funny. It's always some sort of horror nonsense. But the Leprechaun loves weed.
He does. He loves gold. And he loves weed. There's two vices in this world.
And then Johnny mentioned it a lot way earlier, and I didn't say anything because I had it in my plans to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. In a few of those, there's the stoner character.
Actually, if you want to get academic about horror and marijuanas in the 80s, the 80s were really, really classic in a lot of slasher movies because if you want to go into the psychology of horror,
it's when you do something that's not okay, you're gonna get got.
You're gonna get got, and in the 80s, this was more prevalent than ever because
if you have teenage sex, or if you
was
smoke
bad.
weed,
if you're smoking weed,
if you're drinking and partying out in the woods because you just don't care,
someone's gonna come get you. And so horror has always traditionally been a reflection of our fears as a society. That's what makes good horror movies at the time. So when you look back in the 50s, it's like nuclear whatever, and in the 60s you were like drugs and Russians, and then you get into the 80s, it's like kids misbehaving. It's like, oh my gosh, these kids are going out and partying and having premarital sex and smoking the weeds, and then you get slashered on. You get these people at the summer camps and they're like, oh, let's roll this doobie and then touch this boobie, and then where, and like all that stuff comes out at you, and just like Nightmare on Elm Street, you got these trippy like doodahs that are happening. Don't fall asleep, dude. You're gonna have this wacky ass
Well,
reefer
yeah, there's
dream.
the one dude who like loves reefer, and they're like, "You need to stay awake," and he's like, "Okay." And then the next time you see him, he's like toked out and passed out. Yeah, he just ruins it.
And Freddy's like, "Mwahahaha."
You know what though? In a movie where they touch on all these tropes and everything, there is the reefer character in a Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods. You know, you think he's gonna die first. Spoiler alert. Not gonna go there, but Cabin in the Woods is a really good movie.
But yeah, there's all these movies that bring in reefer comedy as part of their
Elements.
Yeah, their shtick. So they have that reefer comedy character that's always brought into it.
You know, it's funny to see how marijuana use has penetrated films and become a really humongous plot device in a lot of in dramas and comedies and all sorts of things, and not really getting credit where credit's due. But I mean, as you've seen in our just totally off the top of our dome rabbit hole, like Rorschach test of talking about movies, dude, it's everywhere, man, and it's a really important part of Hollywood, because it's the perfect narrative device, because not only it can connect to you, the audience, on a personal level, but it can also use it as a tool of suspending disbelief, because everybody knows you're putting your mind in a different state. You're blah 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 blah. I mean, altered states. Not going into. It's not a reefer movie, but it's a drug movie, which is a whole nother show. But that's a crazy horror movie. Altered states will fuck you up, man.
Talking like butt to butt in the club. What
butt to butt in the club.
Yeah, we're talking about Wayans Brothers. What's the one I'm thinking of? Drugs. All of the drugs.
Oh, there's so many drugs in all of these movies.
With Labyrinth Chick and Wayans Brother and arms getting chopped off and drugs.
There's so many movies about drugs with arms getting chopped off.
But there's only one that has Jennifer Connelly way addicted to drugs and what's his name? The dude from They Live and the Wayans brother.
Roddy Piper?
No, not him. Why can't I remember his name?
Hell Comes
either?
to Frogtown? Is that what we're talking about?
Why can't I remember his name either?
You could think of it. You could think of it before I look it up. I know you can. Requiem for a Dream.
There it
That's
is.
what it is. I
That's
thought of
the
it
one.
before I even got there.
Who's the guy I'm thinking of though? The dude from.
Yep, Jody got it. Joe got it. He got it there.
Hey, I think we've told you sometimes. I can only think of so many names right now.
It took me a second, but that was one of those movies like that. There and here's another. If we want to go on a sub level of movies about weed, there's the movies that you watch when you're high, that are not necessarily about weed, like. Pink Floyd's The Wall. People are like, dude, you got to get stoned and watch this, dude. You got to get that. You got to get that, Wizard of Oz, and you got to hit play on Pink Floyd at the same time, and then you're just going to get transported to another dimension, dude, but you also got to be smoking a doober. And, Requiem for a Dream is another one of those movies where it's like, hey, man, I'm really trying to get laid here, and I'm in college, and you probably never heard of this movie, so we're going to smoke a little bit of weed. I'm going to really impress you with some art film, because that was Requiem for a Dream was one of those movies where who was it? Darren Aronofsky that did that, and that was what really launched his career. And he had this huge, burned bright and hot but quickly career of it was like The Wrestler, and he was on set to do he was supposed to be doing a Batman movie, or no, it was Superman. That was the Nicolas Cage Superman he was supposed to do. If you Google it, oh shit, that was crazy. But Darren Aronofsky was not making weed movies, but he was making movies for people that liked weed. And that's a whole nother subcategory of weed movies.
Well, and before we get too far away from it, since I talked about Good Burger, and since we talked about Dazed and Confused, Linda Cardellini was in Good Burger. And then she was in Freaks and Geeks, which was very similar to Dazed and Confused.
Judd Apatow. Mm-hmm.
And she was in Scooby-Doo, which is most obviously
it's totally a weed,
about
it's
reefer
about,
addicts.
Yeah, totally about weed. Scooby.
But she
Scooby
was
Snacks,
also
get outta
in
here.
one of the best weed movies, Grandma's Boy.
Oh my God, you bringing Grandma's Boy into this?
Dude, you can't tell me that a lot of these like Happy Madison production movies aren't some of the better.
Everything
Reefer
Happy
comedy.
Madison, like Billy Madison,
Little
Happy
Nicky.
it's all
But Grandma's Boy
Click.
specifically. Oh, Click's a good movie.
Click is a good movie.
Yeah. But Grandma's Boy specifically that's what it centers around. Is a reefer addicted game designer. You have so many funny actors and comedians and characters in that. And you have like the dude, the you. How did he see me? Like.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean,
And Kevin Nealon. Oh man, Kevin Nealon is so good.
So going back to Kevin Nealon and Reefer movie, what was there was a TV show that he was in? Was it just called Weed? Or was it called
Weeds?
Weeds, yeah. I mean, that whole movie was about marijuana and going to
like
Kevin Nealon.
TV show.
Yeah, it was a TV show. I think it was HBO or something. Did several seasons about this, suburban mom that starts dealing weed a lot, dealing marijuana cigarettes. Dude, there's so many. I mean, wow. And
This is more than I expected to actually recall enough to be like.
Well, when you and I get down the rabbit hole, like it becomes an anthill at this point. We're like, oh, there's tunnels upon tunnels upon tunnels upon tunnels, and it's just so strange to see how far of weird movies we can pull out. So I hope you guys have been taking notes tonight, because we have been giving you tons and tons and tons of opportunities for weed movies to be watching tonight. There's so many of them.
Oh man, yeah. If there's ones that you probably haven't seen yet, that I would tell you to watch, Corsican Brothers, just because it's Cheech and Chong comedy, even though it's not about reefer. If you want to watch the ones more about that, watch the sequels to Up in Smoke. Watch Next Movie and then Nice Dreams.
There's a lot of them out there.
Watch Idle Hands if you've never seen that. That one is very funny.
Dude, I mean, I'm still standing behind PCU. I know I mentioned that earlier, but not only is it a party movie, it's kind of a pod comedy, but it's one of those college movies that I think withstands the test of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Check out The Stoned Age. If you've never seen The Stoned Age, find it, watch it, because it's one of those where you'll probably be able to kind of recognize the people in it or recognize yourself in those people, and something that'll probably hit you because you were a teenager and you wanted to party at some point in time.
And I mean, Dazed and Confused. Speaking of that, if you've not seen Dazed and Confused, you really need to do that. That's a milestone in terms of, and same with Jay and Silent Bob, and like going to Clerks or one of those, a milestone movie in turn, and the original Harold and Kumar. Again, these are movies that you may dismiss as being silly and stupid, but these have made lasting impressions. I mean, again, going back to Don't Be a Menace in South Central While Drinking the Juice in the Hood, this is where the Wayans brothers, left the realm of television from In Living Color and migrated into the world of filmmaking and never went back. These are milestone movies that are important. And you shouldn't. And Friday and next Friday, come on, man, put those on your list if you've never seen them.
Well, they have old Tiny Lister, who we were talking about just the other day when we were talking about No Holds Barred, and
oh yeah, No Holds Barred. But you don't have to like to smoke weed.
I've never in my life touched reefer. But I've talked to you
appreciate
about,
movies,
like 100 different movies,
like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh damn, Spicoli! How did I not think of Spicoli? His dad has the ultimate set of tools; he can fix it. That's my skull. I'm wasted.
Yeah, dude. Delivering the pizza to the classroom.
Yeah, what do you think you're doing, Mr. Spicoli? Learning about history, having a pizza.
Building a
Mr.
career
Hand
for
is a dick.
Sean Penn built his career off of a stoner character.
How did I not immediately just go straight to Spicoli, bro?
I'm telling you, man.
Spicoli saves Brooke Shields from drowning and used the reward money to throw the ultimate birthday party with Van Halen.
You're absolutely correct. I mean,
That was the first movie that Nicolas Cage was in. Going back to you were talking about Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage is always there.
That was his first movie, and he was credited as Nicholas Coppola because he hadn't changed his name yet. So you had Sean Penn getting his career start. You had Phoebe Kate with her titties out. You had Judge Reinhold throwing coffee in some dick's face. You have Spicoli being the ultimate cool dude. You have Forrest Whitaker getting his career start in that movie.
You remember when I Spicoli'd City Hall during one of these like intense meetings? I'm like, dude, I'm gonna roll up in City Hall and have pizza ordered, and I rolled up with 23 pizzas at City Hall, and everybody's like, pizza rules. I'm like, yeah, dude. And they're like, who brought it? I was like, Bo did.
Dude, talking about you being a movie character, and a movie character that most definitely smoked. Teen Wolf, Styles. It doesn't show him smoking, I don't think, but he did. Because at that party where they put the Jell-O in the girl's shirt, and Fats had to Chubbs had to eat the Jell-O. Man, you know that Styles smoked reefer.
You know he did, and he sold it on the side. How else would he fund that T-shirt business?
Yeah,
like That was the unwritten rules. There's so many movies that we could, oh my gosh, there's just so many. There's so many, and we don't have time to cover them all, but I think in the past hour and some change, hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes that we've given you here, when we're done here, you can go back over our notes. You can check these out.
If you've never seen Fast Times, do that right now. Find it, watch it.
Dude.
It'll change your life.
It's our 420 episode, man. There's so many movies out here that made a difference in this world and changed things for the better. You don't have to like weed. You don't have to like any of this stuff. But let me tell you that that marijuana has been a character in Hollywood for so long that it has changed the way that you watch movies, and you may not even know it yet. So, if you're just now tuning in, Facebook.com/TheDrive-In-Speakerbox, YouTube.com/TheDrive-In-Speakerbox. Like and subscribe. I've got one more thing I want to talk about, the box office roundup, because we actually have a box office thing to talk about this week before we sign off. But I know a lot of people have been just joining us right now in the Facebook chat. We do this every week, every single week, every Monday night starting at 8 o'clock. Been doing this for years and years and years. Used to start on radio, but now we're podcast only. So if you've really enjoyed the show, it would really mean a lot for you to like and or subscribe here on our Facebook or our YouTube, or hit us up on that podcast only version. It's the audio version. You can check it out wherever you get podcasts. So box office round. What? Oh,
I thought of the name I was trying to think of earlier. Keith David. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I couldn't remember the name of the dad in Friday, who is also.
Oh, and he died a couple years.
His name's
ago.
John something, but he's like, oh, you give me the crazy eyes, and he's in Little Nicky. And
the thing is,
he's
like,
probably in like 10 other movies.
How do you pick up a carton of milk and not know that there's, like, when he's like, we got cereal and no milk, and it's like, dude, you picked up that carton. You know what it feels like. You know what an empty carton of milk feels like. It feels empty. Guys, come on.
Yeah, John Witherspoon. I knew it.
Yep, John Witherspoon.
Yeah, there we go.
He was in. Oh man, shout out! Pour one out to John Witherspoon, dude. The late great.
He was the dad in the Wayans Brothers TV show.
He was the dad in everything.
We're brothers.
Basically.
Brothers and we're colored and we're brothers. You know the whole thing. He was the dad, and he thought they were crap, and he was the dad in Friday.
Dude, he was the dad. He was our dad. He was always our dad. So anyway, the box office. Usually the way we end these shows is we tell you the box office roundup. What movies made money, what didn't in the world of Hollywood, in the theaters, and the entire U.S. box office this weekend. The entire report came from a single drive-in theater in Florida.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
Our drive-in is about to open soon.
Nope, they're not. They decided to close. The 112 drive-in.
They haven't taken it down on the sign.
They are closing for the whole season.
But there's plenty of social distancing at the drive-through.
Well, you know they're already hypochondriacs. They were wearing masks before COVID. Like, these people are.
Well, I guess their entire workforce is the age of susceptibility.
Yes, and so our local 112 drive-in theater is probably not going to open in here. And this starts a whole conversation that we're going to be talking about next week that I wanted to talk about this week, even though we got so sidetracked on 420. But one of the conversations I wanted to have is about copyright. I wanted to talk, and this is is going to be next week's episode. I want to talk about copyright. I want to talk about fair use. I want to talk about why businesses can't just show movies on the side of their wall and make makeshift drive-ins. I want to talk about why DJs can't just get on Facebook and play all your favorite songs. I want to talk about all that stuff. I want to talk about usage rights and distribution rights of artistic content, and that's going to be next week's episode of the Drive-In Speakerbox. So if you want to get in on that, it's going to be next Monday, 8 o'clock. We're going to be right here. We're going to be breaking that down, especially right now in the world of quarantine, where everybody's live streaming, everybody's wanting to find new ways of entertaining themselves, and why the government makes it hard, why the MPA makes it hard, why all these companies make it really hard for us to do this. You can't just go, hey, I got a bar, let's all watch Star Wars. You cannot do that, even though you think it's a good idea. It's those blue screens that pop up on your VHS or DVD, which no one sees anymore because we all stream it. There's a reason for those, and they weren't fucking kidding about like jail time and fines. That stuff still applies, even though you don't see the warnings every time you put in a movie in your thing. But we're going to talk about that more next week. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I want to know what the movies were that made the box office at this drive-in.
I mean, literally nowhere. It was Swallow and Resistance.
Yeah,
it was
I know
both from IFC Films.
I know what both of those are.
Yeah, and the Resistance made $2,150, and Swallow also made $31,306 in its run.
How did it make significantly more money?
Because it's been running a little bit longer. So they both made about just over $2,000 this weekend. So the box office report is less than $10,000 this weekend because holy crap, none of the theaters are open. We're social distancing. And again, next week I want to talk about this, movies that are not available on streaming that are still amazing movies. Some of the movies that we talked about tonight, like
Up in Smoke, I know for a fact is on Netflix.
But there are a lot of them that aren't. There are a lot of movies that are just amazing movies that you can't find on Netflix, you can't find on Amazon, you can't find on Hulu, you can't find anywhere because the distribution rights are tied up. And, you know, they're like Reefer Madness. It's probably going to be hard for you to find the original one, but there are amazing movies, and we're going to cover that next week. That's going to be our topic of our show, unless something crazy happens and we get derailed. So shout outs to everybody that tuned in. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find us again on your social media. You can subscribe to this podcast, find past episodes, future episodes, all that stuff. We will see you guys next week. I'm Bo, the boom operator.
Oh, I'm Jake, the grip.
And we will see you next week. Stay safe.